Hello everyone, and welcome back. In the golden age of Hollywood, when movie stars were built like myths and happiness was carefully staged for the world to see, one man's smile made an entire nation feel safe. His name was Van Johnson, the boy next door, the trusted soldier, the face of hope during America's darkest years. But behind that glowing image lived a truth buried in silence. Today, we uncover the secret life of Van Johnson and the gay actors of old Hollywood he was forced to love in the shadows, a story the studios never wanted you to hear. Van Johnson, born Charles Vanell Johnson on August 25, 1916, in Newport, Rhode Island, did not come from privilege or comfort. His early life was marked by loss and resilience. After the death of his father, he was raised largely by his mother, Lorette Schneider, a woman whose quiet strength became the foundation of his character. She encouraged his love for music and performance, sensing that her son carried a sensitivity that needed expression. For Van, acting was never just ambition, it was survival. As a teenager, he gravitated toward theater and song, eventually making the difficult move to New York City in pursuit of a dream that felt impossibly distant. His early years on Broadway were anything but glamorous. He worked chorus lines, accepted minor roles, and endured long days filled with uncertainty and financial strain. Yet he persevered. That persistence eventually caught the attention of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the studio that would shape not only his career, but his entire identity. MGM saw in Van Johnson a rare quality, innocence that felt genuine. He wasn't intimidating or distant. He felt approachable, familiar. During World War II, that quality made him indispensable. While other stars played hardened heroes, Van Johnson portrayed soldiers as human beings, afraid, loyal, emotional, and deeply connected to one another. Films like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and Battleground resonated deeply with audiences because Van didn't glorify war. He made people feel it. He embodied the young men America was sending overseas, and families saw their sons in him. His popularity soared, and with it, the studio's control over his life tightened. Then, in 1943, tragedy nearly erased everything. While filming A Guy Named Joe, a falling camera crane struck Van Johnson's head with devastating force. His injuries were severe. Doctors feared he would not survive. His skull was shattered, and metal plates had to be implanted. Recovery was long, painful, and uncertain. Hollywood prepared for the possibility that one of its brightest stars might never return. But Van Johnson did return, forever changed. Though makeup concealed the scars, the experience left a deep emotional imprint. There was a new depth in his performances, a vulnerability audiences could feel even if they couldn't explain it. Rather than diminishing his appeal, the accident made him more beloved. He wasn't just a movie star anymore, he was a survivor. The late 1940s marked the height of his fame. Movies like The Caine Mutiny and In the Good Old Summertime showcased his range, allowing him to move between war dramas, romance, and musical roles with ease. Audiences trusted him. He felt safe, reliable, and sincere. MGM knew this and protected that image fiercely. In 1947, Van Johnson married Eve Abbott, a former stage actress. The wedding was promoted as a fairy tale union, reinforcing the carefully crafted image of the wholesome, all-American leading man settling into domestic bliss. Together, they had a daughter named Skylar, who became the emotional center of Van's life. Those close to him recalled that his love for her was genuine, deep, and protective. He also became a stepfather to Eve's sons, including Tracy Keenan Wynn, who would later find success as a screenwriter. To the public, Van Johnson seemed to have everything: fame, family, and stability, carefully framed by Hollywood itself. But behind the polished image, the reality was far more complicated. His marriage quietly strained under truths that could never be spoken aloud.
By 1961, Van and Eve Abbott had separated, though their divorce would not be finalized until 1968. As the rigid studio system slowly began to crumble, long-buried secrets started to surface, revealing the heavy cost of a life lived in silence.
Years later, Eve Abbott revealed that Van Johnson was gay and claimed their marriage had been a lavender marriage, arranged by MGM to protect his career and silence rumors. In mid-century Hollywood, homosexuality was considered scandalous and dangerous. Careers were destroyed by whispers alone. For stars under strict contracts, honesty was not an option. Late in life, Van Johnson quietly acknowledged what he had been forced to hide. He spoke of loving men in secret, of relationships conducted in fear and silence. "I didn't have the luxury of being honest," he admitted. In those days, honesty could destroy everything. He spoke of Montgomery Clift, a fellow MGM star whose sensitive screen presence masked deep personal pain. Their relationship, according to later accounts, was intense and emotional. Two men bound by understanding and trapped by expectation. Van said Monty felt everything deeply, and that depth made survival difficult. He also mentioned Tab Hunter, young, frightened, and forced into carefully staged romances to maintain a heterosexual image. Van remembered him as sweet and terrified, someone who hated pretending more than anyone else. Their connection, if it existed, was shaped more by fear than freedom. Then there was Rock Hudson, perhaps the most well-known symbol of Hollywood's enforced secrecy, a man whose fame rivaled the very system that kept him silent. Whether he was a close confidant or simply a fellow traveler walking the same dangerous path, Rock understood the unspoken rules better than anyone. Smile for the cameras, obey the studio, never slip, never confess, never be seen. Alongside Van Johnson and others like Montgomery Clift and Tab Hunter, he belonged to an invisible brotherhood, men bound not by choice but by fear. Their connection was forged in whispered conversations, guarded friendships, and a shared understanding that exposure meant destruction. For Van Johnson, these relationships were never reckless or careless affairs. They were emotional lifelines in an industry that demanded denial of the self. "We weren't sneaking around for thrills," he once said. "We were trying to survive." Every meeting required elaborate caution. Locations were carefully chosen. Trust was rare. Every feeling had to be restrained, every glance measured. The fear of exposure followed him everywhere, on studio lots, at premieres, even in private homes. As the Hollywood system began to change in the late 1950s and 1960s, Van's star slowly dimmed. The boyish image that once made him indispensable no longer fit the industry's evolving tastes. Yet his dedication to acting never disappeared. He continued working steadily in film, television, and theater, returning to Broadway and joining touring productions that allowed him to reconnect with his earliest passion. His later performances carried a quieter power shaped by years of experience, emotional restraint, and unspoken grief. Eventually, Van Johnson chose to step away from the spotlight altogether. In the early 1990s, he retreated from public life, settling into a penthouse in Manhattan, far removed from the studios that once dictated his every move. As his health declined, he relocated to an assisted living facility in Nyack, New York, where he lived with quiet dignity. Those who encountered him there described a gracious, gentle man, humble despite a legendary past. On December 12, 2008, Van Johnson passed away at the age of 92. He was cremated, leaving behind a legacy far deeper than fame, a life defined by endurance, restraint, and the silent cost of survival in classic Hollywood. Today, his legacy is viewed through a more compassionate lens. His story is not just one of fame, but of sacrifice, courage, and quiet endurance. He gave audiences hope while living in fear, played honesty while being denied his own, and survived in an era that demanded silence over truth. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to keep these hidden histories alive. We were there, he said. We just weren't allowed to be seen. Thanks for watching.